Now, the trial of the 5 men accused of killing former Orlando Pirates goalkeeper Senzo Meyiwa has been postponed to the 12th of June. Now, this postponement comes after the state indicated that one of the lawyers would not be available next week. Zandie Khumalo is expected to continue with her testimony at the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria when the trial resumes. Let's get a breakdown now. Our reporter Zikhona Tshona has been following the court proceedings. She joins us with more in studio. Zikhona, very good evening to you. A lot of dramatic scenes unfolding. We saw Zandie Khumalo getting emotional again.
She has been, for the past 2 days, giving us a detailed account of Senzo Meyiwa's last moments alive. So yesterday, she told us that there were 3 gunshots fired in the kitchen of the home. She says she took cover in the bathroom, and then at some point, when she saw that, realized rather that the intruders had left the house, she was able to open the door slightly and then take a peep, and that's when she says she saw Senzo walking from the kitchen to the lounge with his arms crossed on his chest. And then she asked her sister, Kelly Khumalo, what happened, and Kelly said they shot Senzo. Then we hear the details around him being transported from the house to the hospital. That's when she broke down, because she says that she was sitting with him in the back seat of the car while Kelly was rushing him to hospital, and she says everyone in the car was trying to put pressure on his wound so that they could try and save him. Let's take a listen to what she said.
Then njengoba sasilapha ngaphakathi sasilokhu sishintshana ke ukusiza ukuthi sibeke pressure embobeni le yayilapha.
Now, all of us who were occupying that vehicle, we were taking turns to compress on the wound. That is where, the towel was.
Yes.
Yep.
And then ukelwa driver, driver kitchen.
Now, Kelly was driving, and she was driving at a high speed.
Yes.
Yes, Mvusi.
And then while samsiza kanjalo usenzo mase sofika ngase emarobhothini asebuthilong ngoba ngangimbambile ngibeka isandla futhi la ithawula lalikhona.
Now we drove up to the point in the vicinity of the Butsilong as we were driving like that, because my hand was right at that particular area where where he was bleeding. My hand was placed on that area.
Ngangiphinde futhi ngimthinte nasebusweni ngithi senzo vula amehlo senzo vula amehlo sesiyafika esibhedlela.
And I also kept on touching his face, or perhaps shaking his face and saying that Senzo, stay alive, wake up or rather keep your eyes opened. We are just about to arrive at the hospital.
Zikhona, in listening to some of those details, she paints a picture of exactly what happened according to her own version of events. But I also understand that questions were posed around calling for help, calling for emergency. What did she have to say to that?
So she says at the point at which she realized that Senzo had been wounded, she ran to her mother's friend's house and asked the people there to call the police. And she says everyone was just hysterical and emotional, and no one was willing to, or able to help her, because what just happened was just unbelievable. She says she realized that she still had her phone because the intruders had asked for their phones, but she managed to hide hers. And she got a mental block and just couldn't dial 10-111. Then she rushed back home, and that's when other neighbors started coming, and people who were still at the house, her mother, for example, Longetwala, for example, then managed to get Senzo into the car, and that's when they were able to rush off to hospital.
And what about some of the reaction in court? I mean, the accused in the case also seen in his mannerisms to not really be, supportive of the testimony that Zandie Khumalo is giving.
So she was able to paint a picture of these 2 intruders that she says went into their house on that day. She's described one and said he came in, he had dreadlocks, he was armed, And then she describes a second intruder that she says was wearing a beige hoodie. Now, she's pointed out accused number 2 in this case, who is Bongani Ntinza, as the second intruder that went into their house. She was asked to describe a lot about what these intruders look like, what are their actions, what language they speak. She told the court yesterday that the first intruder, the one with the dreadlocks, who was pointing a firearm at them, asking them to hand over their cell phones as well as money. She says he was short or medium height, dark-skinned. He was wearing a checked hat, which they also found at the house when they came back from the hospital. But she has pointed out accused number 2 in this case, and she's not the first witness who was there on the day to point out the second accused in this case. Tumelo Madlala also pointed accused number 2, Bongani Ntinza, in his testimony.
So they've been very adamant that they want the case to continue so that they can, reach the end of it. Now that there's a postponement, what does this mean? What's going to happen when it resumes?
It really is frustrating, these delays, not only for the accused persons in this case, but also for the defense lawyers. We know that Zandie Khumalo was supposed to begin with her testimony on Monday. Then she applied for the media to not broadcast the proceedings live, which was denied by the court. Yeah. We now have permission to just broadcast her audio live because the matter has huge public interest. Not everyone who wants to follow the case is able to physically be present in court. So the judge said, you know what, there's a lot of interest in this case, not only in South Africa, but internationally. So therefore, at least your audio will not put your life at risk. And other witnesses have also testified without their faces being exposed to the public. So she didn't testify on Monday when she was supposed to. Then we lost all the time, and she only began with her testimony yesterday. The state is still not done with their questioning of her. So on the 12th, we don't know whether we'll be able to start with cross-examination. And of course, you know that the defense bench is quite long in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Zikhona Tshona. Let's perhaps leave it there for now. Zikhona Tshona giving us an update there of what transpired in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Zandie Khumalo testifying for 2 days, and now the matter has again been postponed.